Today we're going to be looking at Assassin's Creed: The Great Purge. This is the time period in which the Templars practically eradicated the Assassin's Order, almost winning the entire war. Now, the Purge references two separate core periods within the lifespan of the battle between the Assassins and the Templars. Digging up information on this topic actually has them both called the Great Purge, but they both reference a time period when the Brotherhood was nearly eradicated. So I thought it would be fun to give you a quick rundown of what each Great Purge is before we do a deeper dive video onto each individual purge, just to clarify which one is which in our overarching Assassin's Creed lore attempts here. Now, the first Great Purge happened in 1757 and it lasted until 1763. This one took a little bit longer due to the resources at the Templars' disposal at the time. The Colonial Templars, led by Haytham Kenway, eradicated most of the assassins within the Colonial Assassins. This story is further explored within the game Assassin's Creed Rogue, and we'll make a separate video to deep dive into what happens there, but I'll give you the cliff notes to help you understand how the assassins were wiped out. It was discovered that there were Isu temples scattered around the world. These temples held within them the Isu artifacts. These artifacts were in fact not more apples of Eden, but something else. These temples are called the seismic temples within the community, and what their true purpose is, well, no one actually knows. Theories allude to the seismic temples being there to keep the earth in one piece, holding the crust together. But when you remove the key element in the middle of these temples, it causes a giant earthquake. Our story began in 1751, when the precursor box and the manuscript landed in the hands of one of the Brotherhoods of Assassins. The box and the manuscript together allowed the Brotherhood to find Isu temple locations. The temples were all seismic temples though, and this would lead to a massive earthquake in 1751 when they tried to take the key element of the temple out. The Templars would then get their hands on the items due to everything going on, but that led to Shay McCormick, the assassin, stealing the items back. Haytham Kenway arrived in the New World in 1754, and he began to rebuild the Templar network as it was in true disarray at this point. The Assassins had been recruiting gangs within New York to act as their liaisons to keep order within New York. These gangs came into direct conflict with the Templars, and it all came to head in the 7 Years' War. The assassin orders of the French colonial and Canadian brotherhoods went to war with the British colonial and Canadian Templar rights, each picking a side in the European conflict. They were pretty much at a deadlock until that assassin I mentioned, Shay McCormick, swapped sides. The assassins sent Shay to retrieve another of these precursor artifacts from a seismic temple, not knowing that it would actually cause an earthquake. After many died because Shay took the artifact, he tried to convince the assassins to stop the search. Achilles, the leader of the assassins, was too hot-headed and insisted that they needed the artifacts and would figure them out later, which led Shay to trying to steal the manuscript, hoping to stop the assassins from causing more earthquakes. This eventually led to the assassins believing that they had killed him for betraying them. Except Shay McCormick survived, and over a few years basically ended up on the Templar side of the conflict around 1757. At this point, the assassins had an ex-assassin who had information on all of the assassin bases, leadership, and secrets. Shay went on to use this knowledge and his new resources to defeat the biggest ships within the assassin navy, removing their entire presence within New York by eliminating all of those gangs, and removing the assassins from the river valley. This all led to a battle between the two highest-ranking assassins, Achilles and Liam, and Shay and Haytham, with Liam being killed and Achilles being crippled. In 1763, they launched a full-scale assault on the Davenport estate, the headquarters of the Colonial Assassins, where they killed off the remaining members of the Brotherhood and left Achilles a bitter old man. The game Assassin's Creed pretty much shows Connor rebuilding the Brotherhood from the ashes that happened at this event, retaking the colonial era for the Assassins. Now, this particular Great Purge is basically the entire plot of Assassin's Creed Forsaken, Rogue primarily, and then 3 is when the Assassins rebuild. There's a few extra tidbits about the major players involved, like more being revealed about Haytham within his book. But overall, this is the Great Purge that we have the most information on. Now, the second Great Purge is the one that we don't have a lot of information on because it's only ever mentioned within the video games and eventually was covered in the comic book Assassin's Creed: The Rise and Fall, a comic book that I intend to be covering as one of our audio narratives very soon. But again, let me give you a quick rundown of the events that happened within it so you understand what the Great Purges were. The 2000 Great Purge is the one that led to the current modern-day storyline. as the modern-day assassins haven't been able to recover ever since the last Templar assault. This one begins in 1983 with a young boy being abducted by a division of Abstergo Industries, which is the company that the modern-day Templars own. This child would be named Subject 4 and later be called Daniel Cross. They performed various testing on him using a prototype device that they hoped would mimic the Apples of Eden. Remember what I said earlier, the Apples of Eden are originally a precursor technology used to perform mind control on the humans. This is what they were hoping to achieve. So they implanted within Daniel Cross's mind the idea to infiltrate the Assassin Order and dismantle it from the inside. They then threw Daniel out into the world with no memories of what they did to him. He did retain skills and abilities from the bleeding effect, though, because he was within the Animus and he lived the life of his Russian ancestor, Nikolai. Because subconsciously, he thought he was an assassin, he subconsciously began to hunt the people that he thought were Templars. And this led to a real assassin thinking that he was an assassin and trying to recruit him. They brought him to an assassin cell where obviously they had no records on him in their systems. This eventually led to him being trained and deciding to search for his own mentor. This journey would lead him around the world looking for an assassin mentor, going to various Assassin Brotherhood cells and learning their locations. This would all come to head in November in the year 2000. It was there that he met a mentor in Dubai and he was officially inducted into the Assassin's Order. As he gained his hidden blade, he was then bombarded with the locked memories of Warren Vidic experimenting on him, and before he could stop himself, he was forced to kill his new mentor. He then made his way back to Abstergo facilities where he insisted they put him back into the Animus so he could return to his family. But while in Abstergo's hands, they drugged him and discovered all of the assassin cells that he had been visiting for the last couple of years. 90% of the Brotherhood was murdered, women, children, and the assassins. If they were at the location of the cells, they were killed, leaving only a few far-off hidden assassins remaining and a few off-the-grid settlements. Following these events, the Assassin's Order was further crippled by the Templars placing their puppet, George W. Bush, into power, cementing the power of the Templars at this time period. The Assassins then slowly rebuilt their numbers until we reached 2012 with Desmond Miles. Following Desmond's death, the Assassins continued to battle the Templars and rebuild the Order. And those are the two Assassin Purges conducted by the Templars. And there you have it, and now it's time for me to ramble and explain what's going on with the channel and the future of the videos I'm making, which some of you seem to enjoy, and I appreciate you listening to this part. Now, a bit of a shorter video today, but I wanted to kind of do an overarching review of the two great purges, because while I really do enjoy doing the comic book narrations or just giving you these storylines that happen within the video games, I do know that there are people who aren't looking for me to explain the stories in an audio drama. They just want to know what happened and what the great purges are. So I thought we would keep doing these quick videos, which kind of gives giant overviews to topics before we do real deep dive long videos into them. Let me know what you think of these types of videos, if you want them to continue or if you just want the more longer form, deeper dive videos. Currently, I'm working on my Assassin's Creed Odyssey book versus game video. That turned into a monumental feat that I was not expecting. The book itself is taking me a good amount of time to read through, only because I'm reading a dozen other things at the same time for all of our other channels. But I decided, like an idiot, to throw replaying the game to get footage on top of reading the book. And that is a huge game, even on New Game Plus, where I'm blitzing it down. I'm also working on 2 more of the Assassin's Creed comic books while doing some reviews of the gameplay themselves and trying to get you guys as caught up as I can. We're going to be moving into the Valhalla era very soon too, because I want to prep you for Basim coming into Assassin's Creed Mirage. And we're also looking at other games. My wife Yorcia is going to be coming back to the channel to do some Final Fantasy XIV lore, while I'm also going to be looking at the Sonic comic book soon. So if you like this kind of content, please stick around. I really do appreciate it.